All right, we are live. Super excited to have Steve Sims with me today, guys. This is going to be a great day. Steve, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure, man.
So this is episode 14 of Trent Talks, and this has been one that, like, when I reached out to you, Steve, this is probably 2 months ago. I was like, oh, keep my fingers. I'm like, man, I hope Steve hops on. I just think he brings so much value. And he was like, sure, why not? And I was like, I thought I ran around the house. My wife's like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, you have no idea. Steve's gonna be here. She's like, who's Steve? I'm like, go listen to his book. Here's the audio book. Go listen to it. But man, I am super excited to have you here today. I think your book, Bluefishing, which we'll obviously get into, talk more about as well. But that book has been huge for me. I think it's been one of those things that's been an eye opener in the stance, or from the perspective of being able to really change your approach as you go to talk to other people. Because it's super easy, as you know, and I'll let you tell your backstory in just a second. But it's super easy, as you know, to kind of just go in automatically asking for things. Now, in fairness, I did just ask when I asked you to come on the show because I don't know enough about you how to bring value. Although we are promoting the book, which will continue to say is insane value because, like I told you before we came live, I've listened to the audio book 6 times.
Oh, I'm pleased you did. You got my voice in your head then.
I do. Hey, I can hear it. I can hear the accent and everything while I go through the day. But well, I mean, you've got a really cool story. If you don't mind, I'll kind of get to give you the stage for a minute, just to tell your backstory, and you can go into as little or as much depth as you'd like, but just to kind of tell where you came from and the kind of your family history, and then how you got to here.
Yeah, I don't think it is interesting. I think it's pretty much the same as every other entrepreneur because as different as we actually all are, we're very similar. Entrepreneurs have this vein, have this trait, have this bloodline, which is incredibly similar. That's why entrepreneurs can go to an event and get on, because we've all got the same kind of mind path. We're all, misfits from Hogwarts. I was the son of a construction worker. My dad owned a very, very tiny bricklaying firm in England, just outside London, and we used to build porches, extensions, just changes to your house and gardens and stuff like that. So, pretty little stuff, no, occasionally a big office, but not much. And I just realized, again, like all entrepreneurs, that I didn't fit. And I was this kind of grinding up this friction of kind of like, well, hang on, is this really my life? And so I grew up with that. And like all entrepreneurs, we're like about 2 degrees away from getting in trouble because we don't know what we're supposed to do. Something's
Right.
going on in our head, and something's yelling at us and something's telling us that this isn't right. And one day I went to the building site and I was walking up to the scaffolding. My dad was there, my uncle, my cousins, and then down the line was my granddad in his 70s. And I looked at this and I was like, this is my timeline. Here is every stage of my freaking life, from my older cousins to my dad to my granddad. This is it.
Yeah.
Have I just seen the end of the movie before I walked in? And for that reason, I actually just spoke to my granddad and a really rude question when I go back to it. But it was one of those epiphany moments that I can remember. The smell, the sandwiches, everything. We were literally sitting in this little hut, having our tea break on this building site. It's cold and damp outside. He's eating this sausage sandwich. He's drinking his mug of tea. And I said to him, did you ever think you'd be doing this at your age? Of course, that's a rude bloody question to ask a 70-year-old guy. And without missing a heartbeat, he literally just kind of took a break on his sandwich, still had his sandwich and his cup of tea. This is how visual it still is. And turned around and said to me, if you don't quit today, you're me tomorrow.
Wow.
And carried on with his sandwich. And I just thought, shit. So, of course, I did.
Like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I went up to my dad. Now, bearing in mind, as a youngster, I'm now like 17 years old. I've been on the building site since I was 15.
Right.
I left school early, not exactly a Harvard graduate. And I walked up to my dad and I went, I quit. He's like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know, but I know it can't be this. And of course, like, you then quit, but you're still living at home, which you're living at home with now your ex-boss and your mum, who thinks you're up yourself because you think you deserve better, you know, and I had a lot of that. And sadly, me and my family never really got on after that. But there was a lot of kind of like, oh, you think you're better than us. I was just different. And that was the problem. So I went out to find my own way. And I did these strange things that other people do. I made mistakes. Now, the difference with an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur makes a lot of them and learns from them. Okay.
Right.
Those that are not entrepreneurs, those wantrepreneurs, those amateurs are the ones that go, shit, that hurts, I'm not doing that. And they go and get a job. And that's fine. I'm never going to be an NBA basketball player. I'm never going to be a decathlon or a marathon runner. And I'm kind of fine with that. If you're not an entrepreneur, don't sweat it, but don't pretend it.
I think that's huge. I mean, there's been a lot of talk. Obviously, there's a huge push right now for people to be in entrepreneurship. You know, everybody wants to be an entrepreneur and this and that. And I talked about it in a couple of different lives I did like months ago. And I just said, you know, what's really interesting, I think, is that people have to recognize entrepreneur has become like this tagline, this kind of the status symbol.
Yep.
Happiness needs to be the status symbol. Be happy with what you're doing. You know, if you're happier and you're the amazing number 2, or you're an amazing number 3, or you want to go 9 to 5 and be able to check out on Friday and Saturday and just have your $50,000 a month and your bowling team and you hang out with the family on the weekends, then do it.
Yeah, entrepreneur is a funny thing. It's you know, if we go back, I don't know how old you are, but you're old enough to remember this. In the 80s and the 90s, if you were an entrepreneur, it was because you couldn't get a job. And if you turned around to your parents or your mate and you go, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, they look at you as doing some kind of side hustle and you're a hustler and, you know, you're doing stuff under the table. It was a shady connotation.
You're a loser that can't conform to the system.
Yeah, you couldn't get a real job, so you pretend you're an entrepreneur, you know, a small business. You know, you were pissed on. The bottom line of it is entrepreneurism is very similar to being a new parent. Now, the postcards look beautiful as you're trotting through the tulips with your little baby daughter. But the fact of the matter is, the second you become a father, you got no sleep, no money, and 9 times out of 10 in the early years, you're covered in someone else's shit.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line of it. Being an entrepreneur means you're going to get fucked over, ripped off, abused, underpaid, underappreciated until finally it starts to work. But all of those things are what earn you your stripes. And there's been people that ask me the question, oh, if you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self? And the answer is fucking nothing other than stay off the shit whiskey. The bottom line of it is all of the stuff that you do that you failed at made you a better you.
Put you where you are now. Yes,
exactly.
Totally.
It made you resilient. It made you stronger.
Right.
It gave you your invincibility cloak. There's nothing more empowering than falling on your face and then getting up.
I agree. Totally.
I remember being, you know, as a young lad, I was a big lad. I was an Irish family. You know, I lived in a rough area and I used to get into fights and I was crap at it. And I was always scared of getting hit in the head. And I remember I actually joined a class. I did boxing. I did kickboxing. Because I wanted to be a better fighter. I wanted to walk into a pub and be like Bruce Lee and kill the entire pub, you know? And I remember going into this thing and someone punched me in the head and I went down. And then I got up and I was like, well, hang on a minute. I haven't gone flying through the window. I haven't got knocked out. You know, you see the movies and they hit someone in the head. And
it didn't feel good, but I got back up.
Bingo. 9 times out of 10, fear is fear itself. When the reality of the fear hits, it's kind of manageable. And no, I don't like getting punched in the head. But, you know, once it happened, I was like, I can survive. You know, I don't want it, but, you know, I'm no longer scared of it. And that's the thing about entrepreneurs. Every time we fall, we fail, we do something wrong, it's that little slap that goes, all right, that didn't kill me. Now I'm stronger. And a lot of people nowadays are realizing that they can't handle that. And again, that's fine. And I'm a great believer. There are entrepreneurs, there are intrapreneurs, and there are wantrepreneurs. The wantrepreneurs float on. Every entrepreneur needs a good intrapreneur.
What's the entrepreneur? Now, that one I'm not familiar with.
An entrepreneur is someone that is as much committed in what your vision is, but more operational, but doesn't want to take that final risk of everything being on the shoulder. You see,
they're that amazing number 2 or 3.
Bingo. That entrepreneur is the person on a Thursday night that can't sleep because they can't pay payroll on a Friday night. The entrepreneur is the person who relies on that payroll for the Friday night, but gives everything else. I've got some amazing entrepreneurs, and it's like basically driving a car with no engine. You know, it may have all the aerodynamics, the greatest wheels. It may have all the greatest specs. It may be as light as a feather. But unless you've got good mechanics, and those are the entrepreneurs, that ain't going anywhere. No matter how brilliant you think you are, every entrepreneur needs an entrepreneur.
Well, I think it's amazing what you just said. I like that. I've agreed with that. I've been touting that for a while, that everybody's not an entrepreneur, but that's not a bad thing. But before that, you were talking about the fear thing. And I think that goes to, and I want to get into your story now, just real briefly, like how you got from where you were. Because in the book, I remember you talking about literally someone asked you, hey, you think you can help me fill up this party or fill up this club? And you're like, sure. I've never done it before, but sure. But I think that's huge, because in tracking what you've done in being the dream maker concierge, you know, like the blue fishing, people, those that all know, blue fishing is the art of making things happen. Hence the title of the book.
Yeah.
But being that dream maker concierge, you've literally had that mentality, I think, is what has made you so successful. You're like, screw it. You know what? I may not be successful, but I believe I can do it.
I'm not sure it was any kind of guts or glory moment. But I think I was stupid. And I think that stupidity and that ignorance actually got me through a lot of hurdles until I'm on the other side of the fence and I'm like, ooh, I actually made it. You know, there were a lot of those moments where people, and it's all those, we've all got them. Those people that are there going, oh, you can't do that.
Right.
They say you can't do that because they don't want you proving them wrong. They don't want you proving that you can and they can't, proving that you're different, proving that you're going somewhere. And my ignorance was, people would say, can you fill a party? And I look at it and I wouldn't look at all of the problems like most people do. People will look at something and they will go, oh, yeah, I've got to do this, the logistics, the marketing, the branding stuff. And they spend all the reasons telling them why it can't be done rather than the one reason that it should. My ignorance was like, yeah, I'll do that, you know? And I know that throughout my life, I've undercharged, okay? That was a lesson on how to do invoicing correctly and manage expectations. I know that the place that I got was maybe slightly too small for the location. Well, What did I do? I started kicking people away and telling them that it was an exclusive venue. It was only exclusive because I couldn't fit any more people in it, you know? So you learn all of these lessons along the way that you go, And the funny thing is, when you trip on the path, and it's the path outside your door, very rarely do you trip on the same piece, because you've learned from it. Experience is something that comes 3 seconds after you needed it most. And all of those times you fail, all of the times that I was ignorant enough to go, hey, I'm going to try that. I'm going to do that, you know? And then I've gone, oh, crap, how do I do it? It was never a case of me throwing my hands up in the air and going, I can't do it. I would make it work, and it would cost me money, or I would have to bring someone in that knew what they were doing.
Right.
But you would get the job done. And I think, funny enough, a lot of this comes from my background. My dad was an Irish lad, and he said, if you're going to do it, do it. And we've heard that statement before, okay? But without your word, you literally are nothing. I can make more money. Okay, I can get slimmer. I can get fatter. I can buy a Ferrari. I can sell a Ferrari. I can buy a house. I can lose a house. I can buy another house. But your word is one of those things that you can never fully get back. That's your credibility. If I tell you you're going to get it at Tuesday, 3:00, and it's going to be yellow. If you get it Wednesday, I missed, you know? And so those kind of things I learned very early on. And I would literally go up to someone and I'd go, yeah, I can do that for you. Yeah, that's going to be $500. And they'd be like, sure, there's $500. It would cost me $1,000 to get it done. And I remember an exact
But it's the
example.
principle of keeping your word. So even if you had to foot up the other $500,
Yeah,
you have to do it because that was your reputation.
I went to my dad and I went, I've underpriced him. It's an extra $500. He went, well, you just lost $500. And I said, well, how can I go back to him and tell him that, I kind of underpriced? He said, you can't, because you gave your word that it was $500.
That's such a good lesson.
Are you lying? He said, you've just lost $500 and you've just taught yourself what not to do. And that was my dad. It was funny that the information he was giving me about being a bricklayer, being a doorman, doing all the little kind of hustling jobs I was doing was giving me the fundamentals for where I am today. And that's why you say about your interesting story. I'm from an East London Irish bricklaying family. Okay. Nowadays, because I'm not so poor, my kids all go to private school and stuff like that. I'm not sure who had the better education, because I remember growing up 16, 17, 18. I had my first takeaway when I met my girlfriend when we were like 17 years old. First ever takeaway food. Okay. Because we didn't do that. We couldn't afford it. It was a waste of money. So we never had takeaway food. First time I did it was like amazing. I felt like I was a freaking Kardashians or something. But I remember as I was growing up, becoming resentful of my family, thinking I was poor. And it wasn't until, thankfully, my mid to late 20s, I suddenly realized that financially I was poor, but I was so wealthy in every other element. I had my standards, not yours, mine. Yours will meet mine, not the other way around. I kept my word. I got shit done. I was my own person. I fell down. I got up. I realized how wealthy I actually was and how my education was so brilliant. And it is tough now. I try to create it in my kids and I love my kids. But until you've actually got the smack in the head, fallen down, not been able to afford toilet paper, got your water turned off, all those kind of things, you really don't know. And you can tell people about it, but you really don't know until that person knocks on your door and turns your water off. You really don't know what it's like.
No, I totally agree. I look back at when I started the agency I run in 2008. I just got divorced and I had custody of both my daughters' special needs. And I look at there was a point in time when I had my water, exactly what you're saying, water and power both got turned off. And for dinner that night, my kids had spaghetti. I didn't have enough spaghetti. I literally drank a little box of chicken broth. That was my dinner. And I remember that back to that now. And you realize how much value there is in everything else around you that is not financial.
Yeah.
And I think that was that's one of the best lessons for me, because in going through all the different things you've had, building a business, building an agency, like I can look at it and everything's always in perspective.
Yep.
There's never that big, like, oh, this happened. Well, I'll get through it. My wife knows my favorite phrase is, it is what it is. And I think that's where that comes from, is realizing if I can get through that point, there's nothing else I'm not going to be able to get through. So I want to talk real quick. You are, and you've got some amazing stories. I mean, I highlight a couple of them in the description here, from going to having dinner at Michelangelo's feet when you guys shut down the museum over in France, and you've had clients sing on Journey. What's that?
It was Florence, Italy, not
Florence. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You've had clients go and literally on stage singing with Journey. I mean, I didn't even know about the submarine trip to the Titanic. I mean, I've heard you talk about the James Bond weekend you created over Monte Carlo. So you've had all this stuff. And I know now it becomes, I won't say easier, when you have a network that trusts you and you have your reputation, you're able to get even bigger things done. I won't necessarily say that it's easier, but the challenges and the things you can accomplish are bigger. But how did you start early on when you didn't have that network? Like, what was your key to opening doors and being able to say, okay, you know what? How do I give this person value that's going to allow me to kind of make that connection so that I have the ability and the goodwill, if you will, to ask something from them?
Well, I know you were being polite, but it does get easier. The more stuff you do, the more credibility you've got, the more notoriety you've got within that circle, it gets easier. But I noticed something very early on, and like most of my life, I would do things and then I'd look back and go, oh, that's how I did it, and you would learn how you did things and why it worked. And I remember early on, I needed to give you a reason. The bottom line was, and I remember this, I was working on the door of a nightclub and there were a lot of people there that were a lot more affluent than me, pretty much everyone. And they say you are the combination of the 5 people you hang out with. Well, the 5 people I was hanging out with, or the 4 I was hanging out with, were, whiskey drinking poor bikers. So by default, that's me. So I thought to myself, if I can change them and replace those with 4 billionaires, then by default, I would become one of those, Again, stupid, ignorant, simple. That was my philosophy.
Sure.
So I started hanging around with very affluent people. The only way that I could be in that circle was I couldn't be in there because we were all showing off the same Audemars Piguet watches or discussing what Ferrari leather we were going to purchase. I had to give a value. I had to come to the party with something. So I knew where the best nightclubs were. I knew where the best parties were. I started throwing my own parties. I became a party promoter, an event manager, but the whole reason I was doing it was to get into the network of people I wanted to. If they had been interested in bloody floral design, I would have opened up a florist. If they had all had trouble with their toilets, I'd have opened up a plumber's. My focus at the time was
all about changing the circle.
Yeah, it wasn't on what I was doing. It was on who I was doing it with. And that was my focus. So in the early stages, I wanted to bring value to the conversation. And I noticed that if you're in a relationship where you're not both bringing value, you don't have a relationship. You have a customer. Think of your best friend. Is your best friend or is he a customer of you? It seems silly, but you go to McDonald's, you get served at McDonald's, you're gone. Ask yourself, do you remember the person's name that served you to McDonald's? The answer is probably hell no, because you don't.
Most always, absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not in there for a relationship. You want the burger and you're gone. So I noticed that every relationship has to have value. I started looking at my relationships and realized that there were a lot of funny people in my relationship, and they made me smile. They made me laugh. They couldn't give me any business advice. They couldn't pay for the meal at the end of the night. But they made me smile. They brought that value into the conversation. And then I had other people that were very academic, that weren't as funny as these people over here, but they helped me grow. So all of my relationships, I looked, okay, what's my value I'm getting from you? What value am I giving to you? And when I had that, I found that I was able to communicate, whether it be dealing with the Vatican, the Titanic, the world's richest, most affluent people, or to the next door neighbor. Anyone that I needed to communicate with, like you, I look at it and I go, okay, what's my value? When you reached out to me, I thought to myself, okay, what's going to go on here? What's my selfish gain? All right, my selfish gain is some of your followers are going to hear my lovely Hugh Grant tone, maybe buy the book, which will make me, I think it's 3 cents. Maybe subscribe to my newsletters on stevedsims.com. Quick plug there.
We're gonna get a bunch of plugs in at the end. Absolutely.
I know, but I knew what my selfish thing was. Okay, right. And those were my selfish things. Okay, then it was a case of but for me to be on Trent's show, what can I do? I can give value. I can answer his questions. I can get his people, his community, his tribe to go, shit, if that bricklayer from East London can be doing this with Elon Musk and the Pope, I'm fucked out of excuses already. So that was what I wanted to do. And as long as we continue that theme in this conversation, I will be giving value to you. You will be giving value to me. We'll be kicking around for an hour, drinking our coffee. All would be good. So I very much, now I started that when I was in my early 20s. Now I'm a sprightly 52-year-old. Okay, I'm way less tolerant. The bottom line is, I realize I ain't got a lot of summers left. That may sound bad, but when you start hitting 40, you realize you're on the other end of the sundial.
I got a year and a half. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, I get even more selfish. You know, hey, Steve, will you come to this party? What's in it for me? Well, if you come along, I'll be able to pronounce that you're coming along and you're speaking at the event, and I'll be still same question. What's in it for me? You know? And so I'm very selfish, and I want to make sure that I understand my value and I understand what the value I give to you. And I think everyone should do that from a ripe early age. Bring value to every conversation, every communication, and every relationship. Because if there's no value in a relationship, there's no relationship.
Now, let me ask you, how much, when you're looking at the value, how much do you put aside because obviously if we look at the weight, I mean, if we're being totally frank here, and we look at just the weight of, my network is not the same as your network. Let's be super, super direct here. I can't bring the same value that you can bring from a networking standpoint and that kind of stuff. So how do you weigh that, for example, when you're on the lower side and you're trying to reach out to someone and you're trying to make that connection and bring value, but maybe they're in a position of more authority, more wealth, more influence, etc.
So let's get some basics here. I don't know how big your tribe is, and I don't want you to claim it now, but this video is evergreen. This video may be sitting on some server somewhere, and in 5 years' time may suddenly go viral. It's amazing. I've been on podcasts. I'm on podcasts now that haven't even been released yet. And I know a lot of my friends turn around and in my other kind of speaking and consulting side, and they go, well, what's the readership? What's the download rate? Whoa, hang on. Wrong.
All your RFMs and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to know that there's a warm-blooded person on the other end of the screen or the phone or the Skype, and that they're a cool cat to hang out with and to spitball and share time with. That's my first thing. The other thing is, and this, funny enough, is where I become selfish again. I don't like today. I wrote that book and I got a stonkingly handsome retainer out of it. That's why I only get like about 3 cents a book.
Fair enough.
But I got paid very handsomely to do that book. And I wrote that book because today pisses me off. And I heard something the other day, which I spend a lot of my time being very aggravated. But I heard a review the other day that said that the youth, and they class that as under the age of 28, spend more time per month accumulated speaking to AI than they do their best friend. Now, I see my son walking around the house and I say, hey, have you done your homework? Or have you picked that up? Or have you done this? And he goes, oh, no. And he picks up his phone and he goes, Siri, remind me at 7 o'clock to do this. And they speak to Siri and they speak to Alexa. And then you get in the car and you speak to OnStar. We're speaking to AI combined over that month more than we are our best friend. Now, think about it. I know for me personally, and I don't do Siri and stuff like that. But my best mate, I've not had drinks with for about 3 months. And we're going out next month. So that's a 4-month period that I've not been able to kind of sit down with him, which will probably be maximum 3 hours.
Right.
But think about through that period, how many times you speak to other operating systems, bots, chats. Yeah. So that startling realization that we are getting accustomed to speak to AI. The other daft thing is my kids are very confident about asking Siri for something. But when we're in a restaurant, I make them order that food and they get a bit nervous about it. Because we're losing the ability to communicate.
It's the ability to have what we're doing here, this dialogue back and forth, to feel comfortable. Like, look, I may screw up, fumble my words, but who really freaking cares?
But that's what fucking conversation is. It's not
exactly.
anything. You don't go, oh, hang on a minute, let me go back and fine tune that. No, that's what a conversation is. I'm sure you've seen the Starbucks shuffle. Okay, you walk into Starbucks and they order that drink with like 15 different toppings. I'm in LA, so it's unbelievable how long you can take to order a freaking coffee. And then they step to the side, and then what they do is they get their phone out, because God forbid they could be alone for a few seconds and make eye contact with another human being and maybe even strike up a conversation.
Right.
You know, that should never happen. And here's what happened, and this is what's getting scary. And we're still in the why did I come on?
Yeah.
They actually get up their phone and they do this. They get their phone up and they start doing that. Okay. Now, when they've got their head in their phone and their foreheads down so you can't make eye contact, if you do that and you're on the phone, if you put your phone down and you do that, you're in a boxing stance. Have you ever noticed that?
I never thought of that. That's interesting.
If I walked up to you and I was like this, my chin's down and my knuckles are up,
right?
We have a problem. We do.
Imagine we do. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's the body posture of what's going on now. Like if I'm having a chat with you and I'm kind of like, stood up and I'm folding my arms, that there's a problem because I'm very defensive and I've got my arms crossed. And we're walking around like this now all the time, that it's becoming normal that our elbows are in, our chin's down. We're in a very defensive position. If you're in a very defensive position for a few hours a day, what does it make you? It makes you defensive. So I don't like the way that things are going. And any way that I can shake that up and tell people, stop it now. Because in the next 5 years, our cars are going to be driving us to work, are going to be talking to us. We're going to have bots all over the house. My house, I'm building a house here. It's an old house that we're refurbing, and we're smarting it. And they're putting all of these panels in it where you just walk up to the Nest controller, and you go 66, and it will make your temperature 60. I'm going to be talking to my freaking house, more than you talk to your friends. We need to learn the ability to get back to communicating with individuals. I wrote all of that in the book, not to buy a house on the beach, but hopefully to get a few people to change. I accept interviews where I can to hopefully be able to shake up a few people out there. Just one. I don't care if it's just you. But if you are in a situation in the next 48 hours and you turn around and you go, I've got two options here. I put my head down and check my phone, or I just turn around to the person next to me and I go, it's terrible weather out there. Are they forecasting rain today? And you start a conversation, then I'm happy. That's the value that's what's in it for me.
I can say honestly, man, it is so refreshing to hear you talking like this. Not just because we don't hear this in general. One of the things that like my wife knows, because she's with me all the time, is I find it so weird that people struggle and they get awkward if I try to just have a random conversation with a stranger. If I'm standing in line at a coffee shop and I'm like, hey, how's your day going? They just look at me like I've got three eyes and I'm going crazy. And I think it's the same thing that you said about the ability, like when you talk about we have our phones in a boxing stance, or you talk about being defensive when you cross your arms. Like I think that we as people in general have lost the ability to read body language.
Yes.
Because we just don't pay attention.
And why should we? Because you go on social now, someone posts a comment on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Tinder, whatever, and you go on there and you make a comment and you don't get to see the other person's reaction. Now, here's a funny concept. Every person's reaction is based on how they're feeling that day. Now, if I turn around to you and I go, you're a chubby guy. Now, bear in mind, I can say that because I'm a chubby guy.
I can understand that I am a chubby guy.
We're men. We're allowed to be.
That's what we do.
That's sexist. I'm going to get shit for that. But anyway,
that's okay.
If I say to you, hey, you're a chubby guy, we can laugh, we can joke, we can go backwards and forwards like we just did because we're reacting to each other. Right. But if this video goes up and my comment is, well, Trent's a chubby guy, okay? If you're having a bad day, you're not going to like that comment. If you're having a great day, you're going to laugh and go, oh, he's being silly. You will interpret the comment however you're feeling that day. I'm not going to know how you're interpreting it. Now, I could make that comment like I just did and worse, ruder comments, and we could laugh about it, engage about it based on, the how you react to my comment.
You read the facial expressions. You can read a lot of different things.
That. You go on Instagram now and you can go, great. And then someone could look at it and go, is that all you've got to say? Well, that's not
great.
And they can hate you.
Yeah.
And I actually had someone give me some shit. I forget how long ago. I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago. And we were at an event, and I'd been at another event, and I'd seen the guy, and he was quite a cool cat, and I enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
And then I went up to him, and I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, all right, I'm good, yeah." And I was like, "What's your problem?" He's like, "Let's not get into it. Let's not worry about it." Like, bollocks, what's going on? He's like, "Well, you make out you're all kind of approachable and stuff like that, and I try to, and then you just freaking dump me." And I said to him, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And he said, "I messaged you on Twitter and you didn't respond." I said, "Dude, I don't even watch Twitter." I said, "You're pissed off with me because you didn't have the decency to just phone me. Did I give you my phone number?" And he went, "Yeah." I said, "Hell, if you don't want to talk to me, you could have texted me. But because you've chosen your favorite platform to reach out to me, one that I don't look at, you're now pissy with me." And that's the problem. If you go back into the 90s, you either met someone face to face, sent them a fax, or made a phone call. Okay. There were 3 ways that you got to chat with someone. Today, there's thousands.
Yeah.
You could have LinkedIn,
there's 8 different social media platforms. There's texting, there's the email,
I think every day I get an invite for some new social platform for business owners or entrepreneurs or some community in Facebook that you can privately message. Every day there's becoming enough ways. And let's be blunt, when the phone rings and you've left the volume, because most people don't even have volume on their phones anymore. It vibrates.
It's on vibrate or the volume's all the way down. Yeah.
When that phone rings and you're in a crowded place, everyone looks at you like you've just interrupted the most important conversation ever. Okay. I saw a bunch of girls at a restaurant and it was mortifying. And they sat down and they're all on the phone. Okay. And they're checking whatever. The guy comes over to take their order. Half of them did that to give the order. Didn't even take their eyes off the phone.
They just do the head nod to pretend they're acknowledging.
Pretend as though they're, I'll have a Diet Coke, please. Thank you very much. And they carried on. While this was going on, one of the girls' phones rang. And all of these other girls just looked at her like she was a leper. How dare you interrupt what's going on? Now, the daft thing is when that phone rings, it could be a mum, but it doesn't matter. You're already pissed off. You've now got to get over that sense of intrusion, annoyance, to answer your mum because she called you. We're in a very scary time today, and I do hope we can rescue it. And if I'm out there, touting the tout and on the soapbox and waving the flag, we need to get back to the world of relationships and communication before quite simply that skill set is gone, because quite bluntly, it's dying faster than a freaking dodo on a cold day at the moment.
Well, let me ask you seriously, because your business, I know, is all about relationships, but at the same time, like with your house, you're making your house a smart house. And then I'm assuming you use technology like we're doing here and some other things. How do you balance, especially being in a business where you are so much about relationships, how do you balance the technology in a relationship? Because it's super easy with the way things are changing and the way audio and, like you mentioned, Alexa, Siri, everything else, to get super automated and just do it because it makes life faster.
And that's fine. Use technology to automate and to reduce friction out of you, but we're outsourcing our intelligence at the moment. My kid can literally turn around to Alexa and go, when was Caesar born? And Alexa will he hasn't got to study a book anymore. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to some degree, we've got more access to information than we've ever had in our life. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that's great. But use it for the benefit of this. If you can automate all of your life, and I actually automate phone calls. I actually automate to set appointments. So I'll have a phone call with someone, and then I will automate a follow-up phone call for in 3 weeks' time, and I will get a reminder to have that phone call. Sure. Technology is there to enable you to communicate better. It's not there to enable you to replace it. And that's the key difference. A lot of people are relying on it, and they think they've got a relationship or they think they're communicating because they responded to an Instagram picture you put up of your kitten playing piano. That's not communication.
No.
Communication is sitting down, breaking bread, having a drink, having a Skype. You know, if you're the other side of the planet, get a Skype. We have not face-to-face in a year. That needs to be repaired. What are you doing next Tuesday? Do your freaking work. You know, I have, I'm in my, sorry.
I guess it was be said, in theory, technology should make that easier for you because you can automate your processes so that you can make time for relationships.
Yeah, but people are cheating. People are looking at it to replace. People are looking at it as the end all rather than the assistance. And so that we're losing it. We are losing it. And it needs to be grabbed back.
Well, I'm gonna have a little fun one for me here. What is the wildest request you've got?
I don't know if it's the wildest request, but one of the requests we got that we actually said no to, and is the only one that we actually ever refused, was we had a client that wanted to detonate a nuclear warhead.
What?
Yeah, we had a client in Palm Beach that wanted to detonate a nuclear warhead. So we refused that one. But we've done some amazing things. You've hit some of the list there. We've done stuff with rock stars. We did drum lesson with Guns N' Roses, guitar lesson with ZZ Top. We work with Elton John at the Oscar party every year. We've done some amazing stuff with some amazing people.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's never the celebrity side of it that makes it enjoyable. It's the meaning behind it that's giving it the most impact. Some of the events that I've done, if it's been like the Journey guy, he wanted to sing on stage. Well, no, he actually asked me. He wanted to meet the rock band Journey. I actually put him on stage and he sang 4 tunes with the entire band live in concert in San Diego. He wasn't just a fan. Journey meant something to him. And at every low point of his life and high part, Journey was releasing a song that meant something and spoke to him. It became the theme tune to his life movie. And he went from, again, like all entrepreneurs, poverty, sickness, poverty, divorce, poverty, business, bankruptcy, went through all of these things. Like
all the cycles,
you know, that we go through. Now he's doing well. And he wanted to thank Journey for being there to be his theme tune. Now, that story was so compelling that I wanted to see how far we could take it. In approaching Journey, we believed that we all got on the same path, that this person needs to finish this journey, for want of a better word, not just by shaking hands with the band backstage after they're all sweaty after a 2-hour show, but there needs to be a finale that could never be replicated. So for him to actually be on stage, that gave him the sign off for that movie. And it was the reasoning behind it rather than a rich kid just going, I want to do this. And us going, yeah, okay. Doesn't mean anything when that happens.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I have actually been talking with multiple people about this. And I think one of the biggest things, and this is a mentality that I've really over the last I've done it most of my life, but really focused on it the last 12 to 18 months, is trying to make sure that my business is 51% altruistic in nature. Just 51, because we're always in it to make money. But I think that's the point that I think is really cool about what you just said is it's not just the cool meeting celebrities, because anybody can go to your website. I mean, you can see you got photos of you with Travolta, Elon Musk. I mean, I've seen the photos from the Elton John parties. You can, I would imagine you can get in just pretty much any party you want to, but that's not the part where you get the quote unquote warm fuzzies. It's really from being able to see the amazing impact it puts on, like this gentleman you described, to give him that finale and that finish to his, I love the way that flows in that, to his journey. It's something that literally he'll tell stories about for years. And it's something that affects his life and gives you a position to have impact, which I think is so cool. Yeah, you're making good money on it. Yeah, you do well for yourself, but at the same time, you're able to make an impact in these people's lives. The people who sat down in front of the statue of David. I mean, the people who've been able to live out dreams, and maybe they're stuck in this 9 to 5 of we're making a lot of money, but I've saved so that I have this one amazing, crazy adventure that just carries me the rest of my life. And I think that's awesome. Dang, that's so cool. I love seeing other people who genuinely care. You know, it's like when I first started this, I looked at it and I said, I don't care if I have one viewer or I have 2 million viewers. The bottom line is if I can help one person with what I'm teaching every time, then I'm doing what I want to do. Because I'm not making money on this and I'm okay with that. Yeah, you're building a following, you're building a community, and I've been able to meet people like amazing people like yourself, and it's just awesome. But the ability to be able to do that and make an impact in other people's lives is such a cool. I don't know how to describe it. It's such a cool sensation. You get it.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. Hey, I've got a couple of things. I've got to let you know that we're getting short on time now, but funny enough, I'm also getting short on battery power. So for some reason, my computer's running down.
No worries. So here's what I want to do before we go. Bluefishing, the art of making things happen. I'm going to have a link to the book. Guys, you just got to get it. Whether you get the audio book or the book. I mean, I know you're not making a ton off of Steve, but you guys got to get the book. I'm telling you, if you enjoyed this conversation with Steve and I, you will absolutely love the book. Where do they find you to follow you?
I'm on all the Facebooks and Instagrams and everything under Steve D. Sims, and that's 1M. But if they go to stevedsims.com, you can actually subscribe there for my videos, my rants, my different things I send out on a regular basis. Or you can text the word Sims, SIMS, to 345-345. So if you literally just text the word Sims, 345-345, you'll get on my chain and I'll be able to text you where I'm at, what town I'm coming to, where I'm speaking, what's the latest video that I've done. And that's really how to keep on my trail.
That's awesome. Steve, thank you so much. This has been awesome. It really has been a blast. I'll let you get going. If you're down in Florida, we're gonna have to connect. But thank you so much for coming on, man. Cigars and whiskey on me when we connect.
Bingo, Sam. You had me at whiskey. All right, buddy. Look after yourself. See you later.
Have a great day.
Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed and got a lot of value of this video. If you did, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below. I'm going to be answering all the comments myself. And also, come find me on your favorite social media platform and tell me what else I can help you with.